Tonight, passengers injured at Paradise. 2 buses collide.
A summer flu surge has authorities on alert. What's behind the unseasonal wave?
Google's move into SA. New laptops made here, bound for our classrooms.
The royal family rocked by 2 health scares. Kate undergoes surgery and the King needs hospital treatment.
And Travis Head's hometown 100 in front of an adoring Adelaide Oval.
This is Adelaide's 9 News.
Good evening. Bus passengers have been rushed to hospital after a chaotic crash near the Paradise interchange.
2 buses collided, sparking a frantic emergency response, with fire crews forced to cut off one of the doors to rescue those injured on board.
In the middle of peak hour, 2 buses make impact.
Multiple people were reported as trapped and injured, and we responded and found quite a chaotic scene.
Happened pretty suddenly.
Emergency crews rushing to Darley Road at Paradise just after 4 o'clock, after one bus T-boned the other with 20 people on board.
Saw one bus come forward and the other bus just come straight into the side of it, basically. It was a bit of a weird accident.
Our crews did remove the centre door of the bus that had been hit on the side, just to gain or to improve the access for SA ambulance, and then also for the casualties to start making their way off the bus.
A window smashed, showering passengers with glass. Some kept on board to be assessed by paramedics before they were wheeled off to waiting ambulances. All up, 5 taken to hospital, thankfully with just minor injuries.
The bus that had been impacted on the side was the one that had predominantly the most number of injuries in it. It was a very, very hard hit for them.
Traffic diverted as police and fire crews clean up the mess left behind. Now, some road closures remain in place on Darley Road and Lower North East Road, which has contributed to major traffic delays in the area this evening. That includes to some bus schedules as well. Now, both drivers have been breath tested and assessed here at the scene, and police say so far no reports or charges have been laid, and a police investigation will now occur into how this crash unfolded. Kate?
Shannon, thank you. New health warnings tonight for kids heading back to school. Samantha Hogan, that's because we're in the grip of a flu wave.
Yes, Kate. In fact, cases of influenza haven't been this high this early in January for at least 5 years. South Australia recorded almost 300 cases of the flu in the first 2 weeks of the year. That's more than 3 times higher than the same time last year. It comes off the back of even higher infection numbers over the Christmas period. SA Health says cases are up because of increased social activity during the holidays, and also because international travel has ramped up with this summer, with tourists flocking into South Australia from countries experiencing colder climates right now. They've issued this warning ahead of back to school.
And it's just really important that parents and teachers reinforce basic hygiene messages with students, washing their hands, staying away from school if they're sick, and seeking medical attention if it's required.
Health experts maintain the best time to receive a flu vaccination remains in autumn for the best protection ahead of winter.
Thank you, Sam. South Australian students are set to be the big winners of a major partnership between an Adelaide-based computer company and global tech giant Google. The deal will see Chromebook laptops made here in SA and distributed to some of our public schools.
They're high-tech Google Chrome laptops, now being constructed in Adelaide's west.
Looking at the opportunity to really drive local production, it's the first time in Australia.
In a major coup for the state, Beverley-based computer company Allied Corporation partnering with Google and the state government for an undisclosed deal to assemble 60 Google Chromebooks here as part of a trial.
Allied becomes just the 13th tech company in the world currently producing Google's Chromebook.
What that means is these locally made laptops will be cheaper to buy than the ones you see on the shelf, which are made overseas.
What Adelaide has been able to do here is produce a laptop at a globally competitive price point, but also at a sufficient quality to be able to warrant the partnership with Google.
South Australian students, the big winners. The Education Department buying the first locally made units and delivering them to 2 schools, one in Murray Bridge, the other in Cleve, so they can be tested in the classroom. And there are big plans here for the future. Allied hopes it could be assembling 500 laptops per day by as early as next year, sent out to schools across the country. But the end goal is to be manufacturing the Chromebooks here at home, growing SA's export market and creating hundreds of new jobs.
Reducing the reliance on the Asian supply chain, and which is where it's always been, and making it that sovereign supply chain, so sourcing as much locally as we can.
We have the ability to do this at home. And it's not just laptops, in other areas as well.
Ollie Haig, 9 News.
Volunteer firefighters were today still monitoring an overnight blaze in the state's southeast. Hundreds of hay bales catching alight in Tantanoola. 400 bales, along with a forklift, were destroyed. Crews spreading out the hay to extinguish hotspots. With heat expected over the coming days, the CFS will continue to monitor the fire.
Australian NBA star Josh Giddy has been cleared after police dropped an investigation into claims he had an improper relationship with an underage girl. Allegations about the 21-year-old Oklahoma City Thunder player appeared online, but US investigators were unable to establish criminal activity. The NBA's been undertaking its own investigation, with Giddy cleared to continue playing.
Australia's housing crisis will likely get worse before it gets better, with the pace of new home construction slowing. Higher interest rates are hurting the market, with the government's own targets now under threat.
From high-rises on horizons to the urban sprawl, tonight Australia simply isn't building enough homes.
The next couple of years are going to remain very tough for those trying to enter the housing industry and for renters especially.
National Cabinet set a target of 1.2 million homes over 5 years beginning in July. New South Wales already say they won't meet their goal, and they're not alone.
We're starting from a low base. We're starting from a long way behind the 8 ball. We've got a lot of catching up to do.
We've got no shortage of ambition and no shortage of government effort and policy, but there are challenges in the housing marketplace.
Construction started on just 22,741 new private sector houses in the 3 months until September. According to the Bureau of Statistics, down 9.7% seasonally adjusted on the 3 months prior, down almost 22% on 2022.
We'll work hard to achieve that target, but I think like New South Wales, every state will say it's going to be tough.
The numbers that have been set are a challenge, and we'll continue to do all we can.
This week, the Queensland Government purchased a hotel to provide emergency accommodation. Now the Sunshine State may light the way, meeting construction goals.
My advice is that we will.
Higher interest rates make financing harder, higher demand causing labour and material shortages. Higher migration post-COVID, also a factor.
People don't want to buy. It's very difficult to build. And there's record migration.
Cost of living remains the number one issue for Australians, and for so many, the cost of housing is the number one contributor to the cost of living. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
Australia has refused Ukraine's request to donate its retired fleet of Taipan helicopters, saying they can't be returned to flying condition. Ukraine formally asked Australia to donate 45 Taipans that were retired following a crash in Queensland that killed 4 defence personnel last July. The helicopters are being dismantled, stripped for spare parts and buried in an undisclosed defence site.
Small businesses are struggling to find staff as official employment figures reach levels hardly seen in the last 50 years. And economists say that's handing power to people looking for work. Here's finance editor Chris Kohler.
City Cafe owner Joanne Brewer finally has office workers coming in for a takeaway soup or quick coffee. But now she can't find staff, leaving her family business scrambling.
We're just always in a rush and no time to do anything and going a bit crazy, really.
Around the corner, Johnny Vikalis is also chronically short-staffed.
I don't know what happened. A lot of people left the industry and found other jobs, I suppose.
Very few Australians are on the hunt for work, with official figures showing the unemployment rate remains low at 3.9% for December, despite 65,000 jobs being lost out of the economy. That fall concerning some, but not the government.
2023
was a great year for jobs in Australia.
This remains one of the tightest labour markets we've seen in the past half century.
But that means help remains hard to find. The biggest worker shortfalls, or at least the areas with the highest number of job ads, are healthcare, education, trades, food service and retail, with managers all over the country saying they're working longer hours to make up for that shortfall.
We've never worked so hard before in our lives. My husband and I, we both work here. So he does 6 to 7 days a week and I'm working 5 to 6 and we have 4 children.
Indeed, senior economist Callum Pickering says the flip side is applicants can ask a lot and still be considered for a job.
This is still a really good job market for job seekers. You know, they still have great control over where and how they work and are in a good position to bargain for higher wages or better conditions.
Chris Kohler, 9 News.
The Princess of Wales is in hospital tonight after undergoing abdominal surgery, a procedure that will take weeks and potentially months to recover from. It was an exceptionally rare day of royal revelations. Just hours after Kate's shock news, King Charles announced he'll be having a surgery of his own next week.
The London clinic near Regent's Park, one of the UK's most renowned private hospitals, caring for a very high-profile guest. The Princess of Wales managed to check in without word getting out. The statement from Kensington Palace calls it planned abdominal surgery. The surgery was successful and it is expected she'll remain in hospital for 10 to 14 days.
It looks like she has had major surgery that she's going to need quite a lot of time to get over. So yes, I think it is a significant procedure that the Princess has had.
The exact nature of the health matter is being kept private, but it's understood not to be cancerous. The future Queen, who turned 42 last week, appeared well in her last public appearance on Christmas Day at Sandringham. Her recovery will be longer than her fortnight stay, Kensington Palace saying she is unlikely to return to public duties until after Easter, and she'll spend that time at the family's Windsor home.
It's expected Prince William will be postponing some formal engagements over the coming months too, so he can help take care of his wife and their 3 children.
They try and be as hands-on as parents as they can be. You know, they often arrange jobs so that one of them can always be there at bedtime. And I think if Kate's incapacitated, then William needs to be by her side.
Just moments after the Princess's announcement, one for the King, Charles, to seek treatment for an enlarged prostate. Buckingham Palace says his condition is benign and the 75-year-old King will undergo a corrective procedure next week. It's very rare for the royal family to disclose private medical details.
It's very significant that the King has chosen to do so in this case. From speaking to a source inside Buckingham Palace, I understand the King was incredibly keen to release that information to encourage other men who may be experiencing the same symptoms as him to go and get checked out.
The modern King making his mark. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
Live now to London and your correspondent Brett McLeod. Brett, this is a significant change in protocol for the Royals.
And a highly unusual set of circumstances too, when you've got both the King and the future Queen who will be in hospital at the same time. It's a very different time from when the Queen was in charge and she could disappear for months at a time with health condition which turned out to be extremely serious. So more information forthcoming than we've seen in the past. Charles in particular getting praise for being so upfront about his prostate issue, clearly in the hope that other men over 50 will take notice and perhaps get examined as well. As for Kate, we're waiting for more information if that comes through. Her condition is clearly more serious, but among those who sent their best wishes in a note to her hospital is King Charles. Brenton.
Brett McLeod, thank you. Patients who require kidney dialysis are calling on the state government to invest in big red kidney buses to provide dialysis treatment for travelling patients. Often setting up in holiday parks, the opposition says the initiative could help restore independence to those needing weekly treatment.
Having a kidney bus just provides that certainty for families about where they can travel.
Mentally, it just gives you a bloody good break.
Kidney Health Australia already operates buses in New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland.
South Australians dreaming of winning the Division 1 prize in tonight's Powerball have lined up at outlets all over the state, hoping to purchase the winning ticket. In just a few hours, someone could be $100 million richer.
A jaw-dropping jackpot that has the potential to change your life.
A long holiday, a European cruise.
Share it with family and friends, help other people that need it. You know, it's a lot of money.
$100 million up for grabs in tonight's Powerball draw.
It's a massive event and we're expecting up to half of Australian adults to have an entry into the draw.
The lines are, I'm not going to say through the roof, they're all the way out the doors, yep, and they just keep coming and coming and coming.
I've got 4 tickets in the 100 million.
There have been no Division 1 winners for the past 4 Powerball draws. Pauline thinks that could change. The giant jackpot amount keeping her news agency busy all day.
I'd love to give it to one of our customers. It'd really, really change them. Especially if it's one of our real regulars, I'd love it. I'd love it.
This news agency in Mawson Lake sold a winning ticket in May last year. Many customers hoping lightning strikes twice because they're all dreaming big.
The main thing would be, of course, to help my family and friends. Also to set up a few charities.
And although every number has an equal chance of being drawn, some numbers are drawn out of the barrel more often than others, including 2, 9 and 11. The draw closes at 8 tonight, and if you register your ticket to an online account, you could receive the best phone call of your life.
Regardless of where you buy your ticket or what type of ticket it is, as long as you've got a ticket in your hands before the draws close, you're in with a chance to win.
Guess you just got to be in it to win it, don't you?
April Cretan, 9 News.
Formula One driver Valtteri Bottas has stripped down, leading a peloton of cyclists from the CBD to Henley Beach in nothing but budgie smugglers. The stripped-off ride was the first of 3 gravel rides happening in Adelaide this week, which provide unique riding experiences for professional and amateur cyclists. The ride continues between Adelaide and McLaren Vale tomorrow before a recovery ride on Saturday, finishing atop Willunga Hill.
You didn't want to join in that one, Tommy?
No, it's a hard pass. Maybe we'll get Raggy out there. So.
Maybe next time. Well, sport is coming up a little later and the Aussies are on fire at Adelaide Oval today.
Weren't they just? It was sensational to see. And Travis Head, our local boy, magnificent with another test ton. So good to see. Hi, everyone. We'll have all the highlights a little later. But they didn't have it all their own way, with the West Indies unearthing a young star. And Sam Welsford does it again at the Tour Down Under.
Thank you, Randy. We'll see you soon. Teenagers in court charged with murdering a beloved doctor. The details next. Plus, a young Aussie speaks for the first time after being bitten by a brown snake in bed. Two teenage boys are in jail tonight, charged with the murder of a beloved doctor who was stabbed to death in a horror Melbourne home invasion. They wore hooded jumpers and track pants as they appeared in court for the first time, flanked by 3 guards.
A young life taken too soon, allegedly at the hands of 2 16-year-old boys. For one, it's his first time in custody.
These young boys, they're not even men yet.
The teenagers were charged this morning, accused of killing Ash Gordon, a popular doctor who was stabbed to death after he chased a group of intruders from his home on Saturday morning.
I felt anger, a whole new wave of sadness, yeah. But instantly I did just feel like a big sigh of relief.
Court documents reveal the boys are facing 1 count of murder, another count of aggravated burglary, as well as theft. Allegedly stealing a pair of Ash's Nike Air Force shoes, black headphones, a gaming computer and a laptop, as well as a Louis Vuitton wallet and his car keys. One of the boys refused to let his parent or guardian be present during his police interview, the prosecutor telling the court they haven't been able to identify them.
It hits hard. I have a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Ash's sister struggling to choose photos for his funeral, let alone coming to terms with the fact her brother was allegedly murdered.
I never ever thought I'd ever have to say it, ever in my life.
His partner Dakota Nagel adding, "He was the light of my life. He was irreplaceable. He was the most beautiful, kind, patient and understanding person I've ever met. I'm glad I spent my life with him."
Nothing will ever bring Ash back. And we'll never take away that hole that is now in our family. But just to get 100% justice.
Amber Johnston, 9 News.
Fresh charges for a US man arrested in relation to the Williambilla attacks in rural Queensland. Donald Day Jr. allegedly posted videos about the killing of 2 police officers and a neighbour on December 2022. US prosecutors are now accusing him of illegal gun possession and threatening FBI agents during his arrest. An emotional ceremony has been held in Sydney today, marking 47 years since the worst railway disaster in Australia's history. Family members, survivors and rescuers from the 1977 Granville train crash gathered to lay wreaths and hear prayers. Roses were scattered onto the train tracks in honour of the 84 people who lost their lives.
A young woman bitten on the hand by a brown snake as she slept in her bed in Queensland has spoken of the terrifying near-death experience. Speaking exclusively to 9 News, Casey Leadbetter hopes her story could save someone's life.
Casey Leadbetter knows she's lucky to be alive and she has the scars to prove it.
I was definitely scared, I'm not going to lie.
The 21-year-old was in bed last Friday night when she woke to the fright of her life.
I just remember rolling over and I've just felt like this very strong bite.
That bite was from a deadly eastern brown snake nestled in her bed.
I didn't see it and I think that might have helped keep me calm. I just remember just jumping out of bed straight away because it gave me such a fright, and I just remember holding my hand and my hand just felt like it was on fire, and then I could feel it was starting to travel up my arm.
Her first instinct was to call her mum, who contacted the family she was working for on the remote cattle station. They wrapped her arm in a compression bandage, keeping her stable and still until paramedics arrived, flying her to hospital.
They still knew it could go either way. It was very touch and go. I cannot express my thanks to everyone that was there to help.
Casey is telling her story to raise awareness of the importance of snakebite first aid. She wants it to be taught in schools to help save more lives.
Because, like we said before, it has saved my life and it can save other people's lives too.
And despite the terrifying ordeal, she says she still loves snakes and is determined not to let this set her back, planning on returning to work as soon as she recovers.
It'll bring out some emotion and maybe definitely a bit of fear, but I'm stronger than it.
Meg Sides, 9 News.
The newest addition to the spotted hyena clan at Monarto Safari Park has passed all of its first health checks. The 2-month-old cub weighed in at 5.7 kilos, similar to the size of an average house cat. DNA samples were taken to later determine its sex, but for now the little one is healthy and strong. After all of the checks, the cub was happily reunited with mum Forrest. Well, another run of hot weather is on the way. Jessica Braithwaite, a mild break didn't last too long.
No, it didn't, Kate. In fact, from tomorrow, temperatures will gradually start to climb again, bringing about another hot spell and certainly a dose of beach weather, which might be good news if you are preparing to take part in the 9 News Jetty to Jetty swim. There's only 1 week to go until the event takes place. Now, this event dates back over 100 years. How cool is that? With a tradition of swimming between the jetties beginning in 1917 when Henley and Grange Swimming Club held the first event. 400 swimmers of all ages will be competing in the 2.2 kilometre ocean swim next Friday, setting off from Grange Jetty and swimming with the tide to the finish line at Henley Beach. If you are keen to join in, you can register at mastersswimmingsa.org.au. And Brenton, I know you will be one of those swimmers hitting the water, so we wish you luck, and I'll have the full forecast coming up soon.
Quite a different look to On News. That's right. Thanks so much, Jessica. The stolen paintings, including a Picasso discovered in a basement 15 years after they were taken. That story next. Plus, the frightening new twist in the Ecuador TV studio siege.
9 News, brought to you by Stan.
Two men held at Guantanamo Bay for more than 15 years have admitted to charges over the Bali bombings. They could be sentenced to 20 years in prison and returned to Malaysia in exchange for giving evidence against one of the accused masterminds.
It's been more than 21 years since 202 people, including 88 Australians, were murdered. Now, Mohammed Farik bin Amin and Mohammed Nazir bin Lep admit helping the Bali bombing's alleged ringleader, known as Hambali, and they're willing to testify against him. In return, the US government will not seek a sentence more than 25 years.
The 202 people, 88 Australians, my 5 mates that I'll never see again. I just hope the judges think about that before they even consider any sentence reductions.
Jan Lazinski was on the holiday island that night. Today, wearing a reminder of those who died, he was bound for Bali.
I'll go back directly to the memorial and lay some flowers back.
Australia's Prime Minister said we welcome the fact that the terrorists responsible for these attacks are now finally being held accountable. Bin Lep and Bin Amin, who swore an oath of allegiance to Osama bin Laden, were arrested in 2003, detained at Guantanamo Bay since 2006. Their plea deal revealing Hambali pushed them to join al-Qaeda's military training. They do not say they knew about the Bali bombings, but that they helped Hambali elude authorities until 2003. He too would end up in Guantanamo Bay. Others involved in the attack have been released from prison, including bomb maker Umar Patek last year and cleric Abu Bakr Bashir in 2021. Hambali's trial at Guantanamo Bay won't start until next year at the earliest. Bin Amin and Bin Lep's sentencing is due to take place next week. They're likely to be extradited to their homeland Malaysia to serve any time there.
For us, the pain never goes away. This never leaves us.
In the United States, Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
Donald Trump was close to being thrown out of court today after he ignored a judge's warning to keep quiet. The former US president was loudly complaining while writer E. Jean Carroll testified he'd ruined her reputation after she accused him of sexual abuse.
He's a nasty judge. He's a Trump-hating guy, and it's obvious to everybody in the court. It's a disgrace, frankly, what's happening. It's a disgrace.
Donald Trump had been pushing for the trial to be delayed so he could attend his mother-in-law's funeral.
From strikes by Iran to fresh attacks in the Red Sea, tensions in the Middle East have ramped up further. It comes as Foreign Minister Penny Wong travels to the West Bank to push for a ceasefire and long-term solution in Gaza.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard launches precision missiles into Pakistan. Intended to destroy Sunni militant strongholds, the strike killed 2 children. Pakistan, a nuclear-armed state, recalled its ambassador and weighed up its options.
Pakistan reserves the right to respond to this illegal act.
Before a series of retaliatory strikes in Iran's southeast, targeting what it described as terrorist hideouts, as the conflict expands beyond Gaza's border on a number of fronts.
If the genocide in Gaza stops, then it will lead to the end of other crises and attacks in the region.
Israel's military chief warns the likelihood of war with Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon now higher than ever. And with no end in sight in Gaza, desperation grows. Hundreds seen scrambling towards aid vehicles as they enter the north, with more on its way. Much-needed medicines to be sent to Israeli hostages still held by Hamas, as well as depleted hospitals, like this one near Khan Yunis, where overnight dozens sought treatment, including children. After a nearby airstrike killed 7. The highest-ranking Australian diplomat to visit the West Bank since October 7, Foreign Minister Penny Wong called for peace as she met with Israeli and Palestinian leaders.
That we should ensure that our funds are used appropriately. We make that a priority.
Yemen's Houthi militants ramping up their attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea, targeting an American-owned ship in the Gulf of Aden. The US hitting back with a further strike.
The White House has put Houthi rebels back on its list of global terrorists, adding financial sanctions to strangle their funding, but it could complicate efforts to broker a peace deal.
We will not hesitate to take further actions to protect our people and the free flow of international commerce.
In the United States, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is claiming he already has 2.5 million signatures of support for his presidential run. The election is just over 50 days away, with prominent critics who could challenge him on the ballot either in jail or living abroad. Under his own law changes, Putin could be in power until 2036. The lead prosecutor investigating last week's armed raid at an Ecuadorian TV station has been assassinated. 13 people were arrested after storming the studio while they were live on air. Cesar Suarez was tasked with finding out who was behind the attack, but was gunned down after telling a newspaper he didn't have police protection. Found in a basement in Belgium, 2 stolen paintings worth $1.3 million. The artworks by Marc Chagall and Pablo Picasso were stolen from an art collector in Israel 14 years ago. They were still in their original frames and undamaged. One man was arrested.
The worrying link between 100% fruit juice and weight gain in children. The advice for parents and grandparents next. Plus, the concerning link between painkillers and asthma.
A warning tonight for parents. 100% fruit juice is not as healthy as you might think, with new research linking it to weight gain in children. Sophie Upcroft has the details.
They say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but it turns out a glass of apple juice is not so good for you. New research by the University of Toronto studying almost 50,000 children found that the more fruit juice children drink, the more overweight they tend to be. The clinical trials looked at popular types of juice, including apple, orange and grape. The results showing that each daily glass of fruit juice was linked with a small increase in body mass index, particularly in children aged 8 and under, even if it's 100% fruit juice. A liquid serving of fruit can be a convenient way of getting kids to meet daily intake recommendations, and it does still contain essential vitamins and antioxidants, but it also contains a high amount of liquid calories through natural sugars and little to no fibre compared to fruit when it's eaten whole. The advice for parents is to delay the introduction and limit the amount of juice their kids consume, even if it's 100% fruit.
Taking prescription opioids while pregnant could impact the immune systems of babies after they're born. A new Australian study examined more than 400,000 children and found those exposed to prenatal opioids had a greater chance of infection, dermatitis or eczema after birth. They were also more likely to develop asthma later in life.
Fresh hope tonight for Australians with incurable blood cancers. A new laboratory has opened at a Melbourne hospital with access to cutting-edge cell therapies thanks to a $500,000 investment.
It offers the possibility of a cure for some leukemia, some lymphomas and long-term control for multiple myeloma.
We're able to provide care not only for people in Melbourne, but extend that care to regional areas of Victoria and Australia.
Blood cancers kill around 5,000 Australians each year, the third most of all cancers.
Well, sport is up next with Tom Rehn, and ready a huge night for our very own Thanasi Kokonakis.
Yeah, certainly is, Kate. He's just hit the court against Grigor Dimitrov. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he gets the job done. We'll have all the highlights from Melbourne next as Max Purcell goes down in a heartbreaker against Casper Ruud. And the hometown hero in 7th heaven after blasting his 7th Test ton. Hello again. Adelaide's Thanasi Kokonakis has just hit the court in his second-round match against 13th seed Grigor Dimitrov at the Australian Open. Heartbreak, meantime, for Max Purcell, who lost a 5th-set tie-break to 11th seed Casper Ruud, while both world number ones survived huge scares.
Rain hit Margaret Court Arena just as Max Purcell lost his opening set, and the Aussie was determined to blow the roof back open.
What a way to do it!
It was about to ride a roller coaster of emotions, while finding incredible ways at the net to extend the battle with Casper Ruud.
You are kidding! One of the shots of the tournament.
And that came at a cost. Blisters causing Purcell discomfort in a 5th set super tie break as the 11th seed kept a cool hand.
Oh, what a win. Casper Ruud sees off the threat.
Everyone's had a few heartbreaks this week against some good players, but man, that's tennis. Everyone gets unlucky. Everyone gets luck somewhere else throughout the season.
Iga Swiatek rescued her place in the 3rd round, fighting back from a double break down in the final set to snuff out the retiring Danielle Collins.
Some way, Iga Swiatek has survived Danielle Collins.
She wasn't the only world number one to endure a scare.
That's the wow moment he was looking for.
Alexei Popyrin stretched Novak Djokovic to his absolute limit last night, with another Aussie also getting under his skin.
Just having some issues with the crowd.
That exchange fired up the out-of-sorts joker, finding a way through in the fourth set.
Amazing reaction. Djokovic lets it all out.
Unfortunately for him, he didn't have the courage to come down. As the tournament progresses, hopefully things will go in a positive direction in terms of how I feel in play.
Joshua Dorr, 9 News.
Well, hometown hero Travis Head has Australia within touch of a first Test victory over the West Indies at Adelaide Oval. Head was at his brilliant best, posting his second home ton in as many years. A blistering spell from Josh Hazlewood had the tourists reeling at 6 for 73. That's in their second dig, still 22 runs in arrears.
With just 59 runs on the board, Australia's newest number 4 was hunting exactly that.
That will feel very, very good.
Before Green fell victim to the world's new rising star.
Ah, yes, a genuine edge. He's done it again, the kid.
2 years ago, Shamar Joseph had never bowled with an actual cricket ball, honing his craft with oranges. Now he'd claimed his third scalp in his very first Test. 3 for 67 and in need of a saviour, Australia turned to a local to answer its prayers.
He thrashes his hands at it again, crosses 3,000 Test runs.
Travis Head resurrecting the Australian innings in the only way he knows how.
All the way back into the members.
Khawaja fell just 5 runs shy of his 50.
Edged away and taken, that's what they need.
New man in Mitch Marsh began nervously, but next ball, second slip closed in.
This time he's taken. He moves a few steps forwards and Kemar Roach has his man.
Bringing to the crease an all-local pairing, Head survived a close umpire's call before clocking up his first 50 of the summer. But after a 40-run stand, the partnership was over.
Edge, and yes, they've got him.
Stark followed soon after, but nothing was stopping Head.
Through the covers for 4. Travis Head, Test 100, number 7.
Back-to-back hometown centuries, this surely the sweetest, before back-to-back sixes.
Oh, wow. This is just becoming unbelievable.
The adoring crowd had plenty to crow about before the curtain fell on Head's command performance.
And this is possibly a catching opportunity. Oh, yes.
His 119 guiding the Aussies to a 95-run innings lead. Matched only by the 5-wicket debut of Joseph. But that brilliance would soon be outshone. Josh Hazlewood snaring 3 for none in his first 3 overs.
Oh, yes, what a catch. It's been his head.
He finished with 4 for 18 at stumps, the Windies limping into day 3. Vicky Schwartz, 9 News.
Well, let's stick with cricket. The Strikers are confident they can cause a boil-over in Saturday's knockout final against the Scorchers, and that's despite the absence of 2 of their star imports, with Jamie Overton and Adam Hose in Dubai for the International T20.
Not your average net session for these Strikers. A light-hearted training before the serious stuff begins across the Nullarbor.
This is sort of what we planned for at the start of the year, and yeah, we're feeling pretty confident.
But they'll be without prized international duo Jamie Overton and Adam Hose.
It impacts it a lot. I mean, yeah, they've shortened the season by 4 games, but overall we're still losing players.
Overton, the BBL's equal leading wicket taker, with 16 from just 9 innings.
He's been huge with the ball, exceeded all expectations. So, yeah, as a genuine all-rounder, I think, yeah, it's always hard to, I guess, fill that spot again.
The likely replacements coming from paceman Wes Agar, James Bazley and Brenton Doggett, alongside hard hitter Ben Menenti.
We've got the depth and, yeah, we're looking forward to seeing those guys out there.
The Strikers looking to break a hoodoo, which has seen them held winless in Perth since 2020.
We probably haven't played or performed as well as we want to each time we go there. We got close there last time, a couple of weeks ago, and we saw the Sixers knock them off the other night. So, yeah, we know we've got a couple of ideas and plans that we're going to put forward, and hopefully that pays off.
And Short will lead from the front, steering 200 clear of his first drop, Chris Lynn, as the BBL's leading run scorer.
Now to get it done in the finals and really give the boys a chance of winning.
Emma Henderson, 9 News.
Interim 36ers coach Scott Ninnis has further strengthened his claim to the top job next season. Despite missing star forward Jacob Wiley with a heel injury, the Sixers continued their late season surge to thump the South East Melbourne Phoenix by 25 points last night.
We've got to the stage now where there's no one in the competition we fear. We can go in confidently knowing that our best is good enough to win games of basketball, and I think that's especially pleasing to me.
Despite still sitting on the bottom of the table, Adelaide is just one win outside of the top six with 6 games to play, aiming to continue their finals push with a win against Illawarra on Saturday. Fingers crossed. Aussie Sam Welsford has won a second stage in 3 days after another perfectly timed run to the finish. There were plenty of interested spectators as Luke Burns made early moves to retain the King of the Mountain jersey. Fellow Aussie Tristan Saunders tried to break away as some members of the peloton got tangled up as they tried to chase him down. They eventually did, and again it was Welsford who was first to finish.
This is the kick for the line. A look over the shoulder. Welsford does it again.
It's just super nice to have that belief in you, and just an incredible ride, and I'm just riding the wave right now.
He's flying. Mexican Isaac Del Toro retains the leader's ochre jersey. Going nicely. Thanasi Kokonakis straight out of the news. Let's bring him home.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Tom. Well, sunny conditions again tomorrow. The weather details are right after the break with Jessica. First, though, a look at Friday's speed cameras.
Wake up and laugh with Adelaide's #1 breakfast show.
Rudits and Loz tomorrow on 104.7 Triple M.
For the latest Adelaide news and traffic.
Every worker has some money in super, and the good news is last year their money did well. Chant West figures show the median growth fund was up nearly 10% in 2023, while balance funds gained 8% and conservative funds 6%, all more than making up for their falls in 2022. And they always say in their ads that past performance is not a reliable indicator, but let's have a look anyway. Over the last 10 years, these are the top performing growth funds: Host Plus, Australian Super, Australian Retirement Trust, UniSuper and CBUS, all doing better than the median 7%. As for the share market today, down 0.6%, with the world's biggest miner, BHP, losing some ground. And the Australian dollar was mixed, but is buying 65.5 US cents this afternoon. Finally, NAB economists today confirmed that they think the next move from the Reserve Bank will eventually be a cut. And that puts 4 out of 4 of the big bank economists on the same page about that.
Thank you, Chris. Well, it's time for the weather. Here's Jessica.
Thanks, Kate. It's pretty windy down here by the coast, but at least we have seen the sun coming back out again this afternoon. We had a top in the low 20s today, so certainly mild conditions after our overnight low of around 12. Around the suburbs today, we sat, pretty easily in the low 20s. It was a cloudy day to start off with, but we did see the sun coming out again this afternoon. We reached tops in the low 20s, so we had 24 at Mawson Lakes and 22 at Noarlunga. Temperatures were pretty easy across our north today too. It was 28 at Port Augusta and Port Pirie, with southerlies keeping a lid on those temps. Kadina made 27, but it was cooler through the southeast with 20 at Mount Gambier. The next thing for us is this high pressure system floating in. That will gradually filter warmer air over us and bring out those temperature rises. Interstate tomorrow, there is the chance of a morning shower in Melbourne, and it should be cool at the tennis with 21. Brisbane is expecting a rainy, stormy day, but it should be sunny in Sydney. Clear skies are back on the cards for most of South Australia tomorrow, up to 33 degrees at Port Augusta and Port Pirie, and a clear 24 degrees for Port Lincoln. Warming up to 31 at Maitland, a dry 29 for Nuruyutpa and Rehn. Still a little cloud around the southeast, and 24 for Mount Gambier. On local waters, east to southeasterlies around 10 knots, tending south to southwesterly 10 to 15 knots in the early afternoon. Plenty of sun around Adelaide tomorrow, and warming temperatures up to 30 at Elizabeth, 28 at Mount Barker and 27 at Noarlunga. In the city, we're going for a top of 29 degrees, so that's the beginning of that warming trend. And then after that, we climb further on Saturday, in fact, up into the mid-30s. We drop back down again on Sunday into the high 20s, and then we start warming up again for the beginning of next week, and we'll probably get into the high 30s there too. There's still a little bit of uncertainty with that forecast, but long story short, generally speaking, it's getting hotter.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Jessica. And that's all from the 9 Adelaide team for this Thursday. Great to have your company.
We'll take you back to Melbourne Park now for the tennis. Enjoy your evening.
Good night.